Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sky, and I'm going to be looking at each class in depth for Diablo 4 and answering a very simple question. Is it for you? And in today's video, we have the Necromancer. We're going to be going over the strengths of the Necromancer or what makes them strong overall, their class-specific mechanic, skills and abilities, as well as showing some animations for them, their super powerful ultimate skills in action, legendary aspects that we have released to us at the moment, and finally, wrapping it up with a quick summary of the class overall. Hopefully by doing so, we can steer you in the right direction to selecting a class that truly speaks to you. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we are also doing a giveaway for a free copy of Diablo 4, so to enter yourself, all you have to do is be subscribed and follow the link in the description below. Necromancers are sorcerers whose spells deal with the raising of the dead and the summoning and control of various creatures for their purposes. The word necromancer is actually an outsider's term for the priest of Rathma, as per their ability to raise the dead. Necromancy is an ability possessed by the minions of the burning hells, but among mortals, it is only necromancers that possess it. Their knowledge of the unknown allows them to face death without fear. Starting off with the strengths of the Necromancer, they have the most pet summoning in the entire game. They have incredible versatility in their build options, ranging from being a class that could be a melee-based class or a range-based class, or a support and a buffing class, as well as having a bunch of pets out. They're a very durable class with all their blood abilities soaking up life. Now, the Necromancer's unique mechanic is the Book of the Dead. They have by far the most incredible unique mechanic in the game, and it's not even close. The Book of the Dead allows you to customize each of your minion types individually to grant a wide variety of bonuses. Like you can have your skeletal warriors either deal more melee damage, be more tanky, or they could soak up some more damage, as well as even more effects. Each specialized minion in the army has unique upgrades available to them to change their overall playstyle. You can even sacrifice a specific unit in exchange for a personal permanent buff. With this, players can mix and match having no minions at all to make you a supercharged monster, or all the possible summoned units out at once while still having relevant options to enhance their build. Now, every class has basic skills, defensive skills, and ultimate skills. But the Necromancer has some unique skills that only they possess. And these are summoning skills, corruption skills, and macabre skills. Alright, now let's start off with the basic skills. The Necromancer's basic skills are going to be primarily used as a filler, as well as a way to generate essence, and these skills are Bone Splinters, Hemorrhage, Decompose, and Reap. You will more than likely select one of these depending on the type of Necromancer you're going to play, whether it's ranged, melee, a hybrid, whatever. Moving on to some of their core skills, the core skills cost essence, and like basic skills, you are most likely going to select the corresponding one to your build type. There are 5 different types of core skills that you can use. Starting off with Blight, where you unleash Blight magic, dealing damage and leaving behind a Blight pool that deals damage over time. Next up, you have Sever, where you summon a Spectre to charge forward and return to you dealing damage each way. After that, you have Bone Spear, where you summon a Bone Spear from the earth and toss it directly forward, piercing enemies and dealing damage in a line. After that, you have Blood Surge, where you draw blood from nearby enemies to deal a Blood Nova, dealing additional damage per amount of targets you've drawn. And lastly, you have Blood Lance, where you throw a Blood Lance that deals damage per second and can pierce enemies and stays there for 4 seconds. You start to notice that there is a trend of damage selection as you play the Necromancer, whether it be more focused on melee bruiser type of damage or ranged caster type combat. Now, moving on to some macabre skills, starting off with Bone Prison, where you summon a circular bone prison around an enemy for 6 seconds, but it can be destroyed. After that, you have Blood Mist, which I think is one of the most powerful cooldowns in the game, where you become immune for 3 seconds, turning into a Blood Mist, healing for the damage you deal to nearby enemies every second. And lastly, you have Corpse Explosion, where you detonate a dead corpse, dealing damage to enemies nearby. Alright, moving on, now we have Corruption skills, which is all about reducing the enemy's damage and honestly just bringing you overall more utility for your group. The skills that we know of so far are Decrypify, where you curse the targeted area, slowing enemies greatly and reducing their damage. And lastly, you have the Iron Maiden, where you curse the targeted area, and enemies in the area take damage for each attack they actually land, up to a certain percentage. Okay, now next up we have the Necromancer summoning skills. Now, this doesn't allow you to summon actually more monsters to have out permanently, but it's just temporary little creatures that you can have out to assist you in battle. Starting off with the Bone Spirits, where you consume all of your essence to send out a Bone Spirit that deals massive damage, and it is increased depending on how much essence you actually spent. After that, we have corpse tendrils, where you summon tendrils from a nearby corpse, pulling enemies toward the corpse and stunning them for 3 seconds, dealing damage. And lastly, we have the Necromancer's ultimate skills, which is everyone's favorite, and these are extremely powerful, starting off with the Army of the Dead, where you summon undead from the earth, and when they emerge, they rush a nearby enemy, exploding for massive area of effect damage. After that, you have Bone Storm, where you summon a Bone Storm around yourself, dealing massive damage to enemies around you per second for 10 seconds. And lastly, you have Blood Wave, where you summon a tidal wave of blood that travels forward, dealing immense damage. I gotta say, ladies and gentlemen, the Necromancer, in my opinion, has close to the most versatile skill kit in the entire game. I will say, mixing in the customization from the Book of the Dead with all these builds and being able to either go a hybrid or pure caster, pure pet class, you could be a bruiser, you could be tanky. It's going to have theory crafters go absolutely nuts. It's going to be incredible. Next up, we have a first look at some of the Necromancer's legendary aspects. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, each power has to be unlocked by completing a specific dungeon once, and always comes with their minimum value if they have a dynamic value. One thing to note is that we are missing the defensive aspects currently, so we're going to go ahead straight to the offensive. Starting off with offensive, we have Blighted Aspect, where the Shadow Blight passive deals 15% increased damage against slowed or chilled enemies and 30% increased damage to stunned enemies. After that, we have Blood Bathe Aspect, which Blood Surge's Nova echoes again after a short delay, dealing a bit less damage. After that, we have Blood Seeker's Aspect, where Blood Lance deals 15% increased damage to its primary target per lance target. After that, we have Aspect of Bursting Bones. When a segment of Bone Prison is destroyed or expired, it deals damage in an area around itself. After that, we have Aspect of the Damned. You deal 30% increased shadow damage to enemies afflicted by both Decrypify as well as Iron Maiden. Next up, we have Aspect of Empowering Reaper, which each target hit along Sever's path increases the site's damage by 6% up to 30%. Next up, we have Aspect of Possessed Blood. When you pick up 5 blood orbs, a free bone spirit is spawned, dealing bonus damage based on your current life percentage. After that, we have Aspect of Reanimation, where your skills gain increased damage while alive. Your skeletons gain increased damage while they are alive, up to 20% after 10 seconds. Next up, we have Sacrificial Aspect, where your sacrifice bonuses are increased by 15% to really help with some uber-charged, solo Necromancer gameplay. Next up, we have Aspect of Swelling Curse, which Bone Spirit deals increased damage based on distance traveled up to 15%. And lastly, you have Unyielding Commander's Aspect. While Army of the Dead is active, your minions gain 70% increased attack speed and 90% reduced damage taken. Okay, moving on to resources now, we have the Fast Blood Aspect, where your blood orbs reduce your ultimate cooldown by 0.5 seconds each time you pick one up. After that, you have Flesh Rending Aspect, where after Decompose spawns a corpse, you gain 10 essence. And lastly, you have the Hulking Aspect, where each time your Golem damages an enemy, its active cooldown is reduced by 1 second to really help with that long cooldown. Next up, you have Aspect of Potent Blood, while at full life, blood orbs grant 10 essence. And lastly, you have Requiem Aspect. You gain 3 maximum essence per active minion you have out currently. And lastly, we have Utility with Aspect of Torment, where critical strikes with bone skills increase your essence regeneration by 20% for 4 seconds. You have Torturous Aspect, where enemies afflicted by your Iron Maiden have a 15% chance to be stunned for 1 second when they deal direct damage. And lastly, you have Aspect of the Void, where Blight's Defiled Area, when spawned, pulls in enemies around the affected area. Okay, so just remember, ladies and gentlemen, when we get those defensive aspects found out for the Necromancer, we are going to share everything with you all very, very soon, as quickly as we can. To wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, if you love a class with huge versatility and incredible class fantasy, there would be no better option at this point than the Necromancer. This class is honestly insane with the amount of customization options. A Necromancer deals damage in a variety of ways, including physical and shadow damage. You can build your Necromancer to either focus more on a pet-based class, or you can sacrifice them completely to make you super powerful on your own. You have very strong area of effect abilities like Blood Wave and Corpse Explosion. You could also build a Necromancer in a Death Knight sort of way, where you're very, very tanky and you leech tons of life from your enemies nearby. And lastly, this class has by far some of the most epic animations in the game, with all the blood and bones you're tossing out, as well as having an army of the undead following you around. Now listen, now you know just about everything that we have been shown so far about the Necromancer. And there's really only one question left to answer. Is it for you? Let us know in the comment section below, as we would love to talk with you all. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and until the very end, my name's Scott from the Comeback Kids. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!